the gift no one expected. The evening lights of Los Angeles shimmered on the streets as Keanu Reeves walked slowly out of the studio. The day had been long, filled with press meetings and interviews, but his heart was still steady, calm, the way it always had been. Keanu was known for his gentle ways, his kindness that never needed to be spoken, and his ability to carry silence like it was a language of its own. Yet, something waited for him that night. Something he never expected. When he stepped outside, a car was waiting. Inside the car, Ana de Armas smiled. She had a small box in her hands, wrapped with plain white paper and tied with a thin red ribbon. Her eyes looked soft, but there was also mystery hidden in them. Keanu noticed this immediately. "This is for you," she said quietly. Keanu looked at the box. It was small, not heavy, but the way Ana held it made him feel as if it carried more weight than its size could allow. "What is it?" he asked gently. Ana did not answer. Instead, she looked at him with an expression that was both hopeful and cautious. "You will see. But I need you to open it when the moment feels right. Not now. Not in front of me." He took the gift, his fingers brushing the ribbon. The simplicity of it was striking. Keanu had received countless gifts in his life, from fans, friends, and colleagues, but this felt different. It was not about glamour or show. It carried something else. For a moment, silence filled the car. Ana leaned back and Keanu placed the gift carefully on his lap. He did not press her with questions. Respect was something he always valued, and if she wanted the secret to wait, he would honor that. Yet, in another corner of the city, Sandra Bullock sat alone in her home, her thoughts heavy. She and Keanu had shared years of friendship, laughter, and unspoken connection. She had always known his heart was unlike anyone else's. Strong yet tender, scarred yet open. She remembered the countless times he had shown kindness when no one else was watching, but tonight, without knowing why, she felt restless, as if something was about to change. The night grew deeper and Keanu finally returned to his apartment. He placed the box on the table, staring at it for long minutes. He did not rush to untie the ribbon. He thought about Ana's eyes, about the way her voice carried both warmth and sorrow. Then slowly, with the quiet patience that defined him, he pulled the ribbon loose. The paper fell away and inside was a small wooden box. Its edges were smooth, handcrafted, with marks that told a story of care. He opened it. Inside there was a letter. Keanu held it in his hands. The handwriting was neat, careful, but trembling. He unfolded the page, and as his eyes moved across the words, his calm expression shifted. For a moment, he closed his eyes, as if holding back something heavy. The letter spoke of loss. It spoke of struggle, of moments of despair that had been hidden behind laughter and smiles. Ana wrote about her family, about a deep wound that no one in Hollywood ever knew. She spoke of loneliness, of the weight of carrying dreams that often felt too heavy. And then, she wrote about Keanu, about how his kindness, his humility, had given her silent strength in ways he never realized. And at the bottom of the letter, tucked carefully, was something else, a photograph. Keanu turned it over and his breath caught. It was not a picture of her. It was a picture of someone else, a person from his own past, a face he thought he had left behind in the corners of memory. The gift was not about Ana alone. It was about a connection, a thread that bound their lives in ways he had never imagined. And miles away, Sandra Bullock felt her phone buzz. It was a message from Keanu, short, simple, but filled with meaning. "Can we talk tomorrow?" She stared at the words, her heart tightening. Something had begun. Something that would test their friendship, their strength, and the very way they understood love, loss, and kindness. The night ended with silence, but beneath that silence, a storm was rising. The weight of silence. The morning sun rose slowly over Los Angeles. its soft glow painting the sky in pale gold. Keanu Reeves sat by the window of his apartment, a cup of coffee untouched beside him. The letter from Ana de Armas lay open on the table, the photograph resting on top of it. He had not slept much. His mind was heavy, full of memories he had locked away for years. He picked up the photograph again. It showed a face he had known when he was younger, before fame, before the endless lights of Hollywood. It was a friend, someone who had stood by him when he was struggling to find his place. That friend had disappeared from his life without goodbye, and Keanu had carried the absence quietly, never speaking of it to anyone. Seeing that face again in Anna's gift felt like a ghost reaching out from the past. Keanu wondered how Anna had found it. What did she know? Why had she chosen to bring this back to him? As these questions filled his heart, his phone rang. The screen lit up with a familiar name, Sandra Bullock. "Hey," Keanu answered softly, his voice carrying that calm steadiness even when his heart was not calm at all. "You texted me last night," Sandra said. Her tone was gentle but curious. "What happened? You never text that late unless something is really on your mind." Keanu hesitated. He looked again at the photograph. He trusted Sandra with many things, but this gift was strange, fragile, something he did not know how to bay. "Explain yet, I just wanted to see you," he finally said. "Can we meet today?" There was silence on the other side, then Sandra agreed. "Come over." Later that afternoon, Keanu drove quietly through the city. He carried the wooden box with him, unable to leave it behind. When he reached Sandra's home, she opened the door with her warm smile, though her eyes searched his face quickly, sensing the weight he carried. "Come in," she said. Keanu stepped inside, placing the box gently on the table. Sandra glanced at it, but did not ask right away. She knew Keanu well enough to understand he spoke in his own time. They sat together, and finally, he told her about Anna's gift. Sandra listened carefully as he read parts of the letter aloud, his voice steady but quieter than usual. When he reached the end, when he held up the photograph, Sandra's hand froze in midair. She recognized the face instantly. "Keanu," she whispered, her voice almost breaking. "Do you know what this means?" He looked at her, puzzled. "What do you mean?" "That person," Sandra said, pointing at the photograph. "I met them years ago, not in Hollywood, somewhere else. I thought it was a coincidence. But now—" Her words trailed off, and her eyes filled with something between shock and fear. Keanu leaned back, his chest tightening. The past that he had buried was not only his. It was tied to Sandra's life, too. The silence stretched heavy between them. Sandra finally stood, walked to the window, and spoke softly. "This isn't just a gift, Keanu. This is a message. Someone wants you to remember. Maybe someone wants both of us to remember." Keanu looked down at the box again. He remembered Anna's eyes when she handed it to him, the sadness, the unspoken truth. That night, as he left Sandra's home, Keanu felt something stirring inside him. It was not fear, not exactly. It was the weight of silence that demanded to be broken. But he did not know that far away. Ana de Armas sat alone in her own apartment, tears quietly sliding down her cheeks. She had given the gift, but in doing so, she had opened wounds she was not sure could ever heal. She whispered to herself, "Please forgive me," as if those words were meant for more than one person. The threads between them were tightening, pulling them towards something larger, something none of them could see clearly yet. Shadows from the past. The city moved as it always did, loud and restless, but Keanu Reeves walked through it with quiet steps, his mind far away. He carried the photograph in his pocket, unable to leave it behind. Each time he touched it, he felt the weight of memories pressing harder. He thought back to his younger years, to the days before the cameras, before the fame. He remembered the friend in the picture, someone who had been like family to him. They had shared laughter, dreams, and promises. But one day, that friend was gone, leaving behind only silence. Keanu never asked too many questions. Maybe he had been afraid of the answers. But now, with this gift, the silence was broken. Someone wanted him to remember, and Sandra's reaction made it clear. This was not his story alone. Keanu decided he could not carry this mystery without speaking to Anna. He called her, his voice calm but steady. "Anna," he said, "we need to meet, face to face." Her reply came slowly, almost hesitant. "I knew you would call. Tell me when and where." They met at a quiet cafe, far from the flashing lights of paparazzi. Keanu arrived first, his tall figure blending into the shadows as he waited. When Anna walked in, her eyes searched for him, and when they met his gaze, something unspoken passed. Between them, he placed the wooden box on the table. "Why did you give me this?" Keanu asked softly. His voice was not angry. It was heavy, filled with the kind of pain that was harder than anger. Anna looked down, her hands trembling. "Because I had to. Because the truth cannot stay hidden forever." "Whose truth?" he asked. "Yours, mine, or theirs?" She took a deep breath, then whispered, "All of ours." Keanu leaned back, his eyes studying her. "You knew him," he said, touching the photograph. Anna nodded. "Yes, he was part of my life too. But more than that, he was connected to someone you never expected." Before she could explain further, the sound of the door opening caught Keanu's attention. Sandra Bullock walked into the cafe. She had not been invited, not by words, but she had known in her heart where she needed to be. She walked straight to their table, her eyes moving from Keanu to Anna. The air grew tense. Sandra sat down, her voice low but sharp. "I think we need to stop dancing around this. Tell us the truth, Anna. All of it." Anna looked trapped, her eyes filling with tears. "You both deserve to know. But once I tell you, nothing will be the same again." Keanu's hand rested gently on the table, his calm presence urging her to continue. Sandra, however, leaned forward, her eyes fierce. She had always been strong, and now her strength pressed against Anna's silence. Finally, Anna spoke. The man in the photograph. He wasn't just Keanu's friend. He wasn't just someone who disappeared. He was tied to both of your lives in ways you never knew. He carried secrets, and he left behind unfinished promises. I found pieces of his story, and that's why I gave you the box, because you need to see what he left behind. "What did he leave?" Keanu asked quietly. Anna's voice broke as she whispered, "A truth about kindness, about sacrifice, but also about betrayal." Sandra's eyes narrowed. "Betrayal?" Anna nodded, tears sliding down her face. "Yes, betrayal that touched both of you, without you ever knowing it." The silence after her words was heavy, almost unbearable. Keanu closed his eyes for a moment, his breath slow. Sandra's hands tightened on the table, and in that moment, they all realized the gift was not just a reminder of the past. It was a doorway, and once they stepped through, there would be no way back. The revelation begins. The cafe had grown quieter as the evening settled in, but at the table where Keanu, Sandra, and Anna sat, the silence felt heavier than the air outside. The word betrayal still echoed in their minds, and none of them could ignore it. Keanu leaned forward, his calm voice steady but firm. "Anna, you cannot leave it there. You gave me this gift. You opened these doors. Now tell us what it means." Anna's hands trembled as she held the edge of the table. Her eyes lowered, as though she was afraid of what would happen if she looked directly at Keanu or Sandra. The man in the photograph, his name was Daniel. You both remember him differently, but I knew him in another way. He was my mother's closest friend. He carried stories about both of you, stories I was never supposed to hear. And when he passed away, he left behind letters, journals, and things he wanted delivered, but to the right people, at the right time. Sandra's heart raced. What? Stories? Anna took a deep breath. About kindness, yes, but also about choices that change lives. Keanu? He always spoke about how you carried pain but gave kindness anyway. He said you saved him once, but he also said he failed you in return. He carried guilt until his last breath. Keanu's eyes softened, but his chest felt tight. He remembered Daniel's sudden disappearance, how it left a hole in his youth. He had never blamed him, but to hear that guilt had followed him all those years. It was like carrying a shadow he never knew existed. Sandra's voice cut through the heaviness. And me? Why did you say betrayal touched me too? Anna's tears spilled freely now. Because Daniel once stood between you and something important, something you never knew you lost. He made a choice that kept you from knowing a truth about yourself, and he did it because he thought he was protecting you. Sandra froze. Her heart pounded. She had always been strong, always certain about her path, but now her foundation felt unsteady. What truth? She asked, her voice sharp. Anna whispered, I don't have the whole answer, but in his journal, he wrote about a secret he carried for you, Sandra. And that secret is connected to Keanu, too. You were never supposed to cross paths in that story. But fate did not listen. Keanu sat back, his eyes lost in thought. Everything felt like threads being pulled from the same cloth. Anna reached into her bag and placed another small envelope on the table. It was worn, its edges bent with time. This is one of Daniel's letters, she said softly. I was told to give it when the time felt right. I believe that time is now. Sandra reached for it with shaking hands. Keanu watched quietly, his presence calm but his eyes searching. She opened the envelope slowly, pulling out the folded paper inside. Her eyes scanned the words, and with each line, her expression changed. From confusion to shock, and finally, to tears. Keanu touched her hand gently. What does it say? Sandra looked at him, her voice trembling. It says that Daniel kept a truth about my family, a truth that explains why I always felt something missing. He writes that he once promised someone he would keep it hidden, but now he says I deserve to know. And Keanu? Her voice broke. He wrote your name in the same letter. Anna's head bowed. You see now? The gift was never just mine to give. It was his. I only carried it to you. The rest, you must find for yourselves. Keanu sat still, his mind carrying the weight of years that suddenly felt connected in ways he never imagined. Sandra wept silently, holding the letter close to her chest. Outside the cafe, the world moved on, unaware of the storm forming inside. But for the three of them, life was no longer the same. The secret in the journals. The night after the meeting at the cafe was restless for both Keanu and Sandra. Sleep did not come easily. Sandra sat by her window with the letter in her hands, reading it again and again, as if hidden meanings might rise between the lines. Keanu, in his apartment, held the photograph, wondering why fate had brought Daniel back into his life in this strange way. By morning, they decided they could not wait. Keanu drove to Sandra's house, the letter and the photograph between them like fragile bridges. Anna joined them, carrying a worn leather bag that looked heavy with age. Inside the bag were Daniel's journals. Anna placed them on the table carefully, as though they were more than paper and ink. These are his words, she whispered. I could only read parts because some were too personal. But the truth you search for is here. Sandra reached first, opening one of the journals. The handwriting was uneven, written in hurried strokes. The first pages spoke about dreams, friendships, and struggles, but as she flipped further, the words grew heavier. Daniel had written about choices he made to protect people he cared for. He spoke of Keanu as a brother, someone who gave him hope when he had none. But then came the confession. He admitted he had walked away not because he wanted to, but because he carried a secret too big to share at the time. Sandra's fingers trembled as she turned another page. Her eyes widened when she saw her own name written there. "Read it," Keanu said softly, though his voice carried the weight of unease. Sandra read aloud, her voice breaking. "I promised her parents I would keep the truth hidden. Sandra was too young, and the truth would break her heart. But as the years passed, I wondered if I had stolen her right to know who she truly was. I fear she will never forgive me if she finds out." Her breath caught. She pressed a hand to her chest. "What does he mean? What truth about me?" Anna leaned forward. "Keep reading." Sandra's eyes moved across the words, and then her world shifted. Daniel wrote about a connection between her family and Keanu's past, a bond no one had spoken of. He hinted that their lives had been tied long before Hollywood, long before fame. There were names, places, and a story of sacrifice. Tears filled Sandra's eyes. "He knew something about my family, and about you, Keanu. He says you both shared something you never realized, something lost." Keanu sat in silence, his face calm but his soul shaking. He had carried loss all his life, his father's absence, the tragedies that had marked him. But this truth felt different. It was not just about him. It was about them both. Anna opened another journal, flipping through until she found a page marked with a folded corner. "Here," she said, pointing. Keanu took it, his eyes scanning the words. Daniel had written about a day long ago when he had met Sandra's parents. There had been a promise made, a vow to protect her from a painful truth, and Keanu's name was tied to that vow. "What truth?" Sandra whispered, her voice trembling. Keanu closed the book gently. "We don't know yet, but Daniel wanted us to find it. And maybe that's why you gave me the gift, Anna. It was never just about the past. It was about now." Sandra wiped her tears, her strength flickering through her. "Pain." "Then we must follow it. We must find the rest, no matter what it is." Anna nodded. "There is one more thing. Daniel left behind a sealed envelope. I did not open it. I kept it safe. It has both your names written on it." She pulled the envelope from her bag. Its paper was yellow with time, the ink faded but clear. Keanu and Sandra looked at it together, the silence between them louder than any words. They knew this envelope could break them or bring them closer than ever before. Keanu reached out, but stopped. He looked at Sandra. "Together," he said, softly. Sandra nodded, her hand steadying his. They held the envelope between them, ready to open the last door that Daniel had left behind. The sealed truth. The envelope sat between Keanu and Sandra like a fragile piece of destiny. Its weight was small, yet it carried decades of silence, promises, and unanswered questions. The cafe, the letters, the journals, everything had led them to this single moment. Keanu held the edge of the envelope carefully, his fingers brushing against Sandra's. He could feel her trembling, but her eyes were steady. She nodded once, giving him silent strength. Together, they tore the envelope open. Inside was a folded letter, yellowed by time but preserved with care. Keanu unfolded it slowly, his heart pounding in a rhythm he rarely allowed himself to feel. He began to read aloud, his deep voice carrying the words Daniel had left behind. "To Keanu and Sandra, if you are reading this, it means the time has come. I could not carry the truth any longer, but I also could not tell you while I was alive. I feared your anger, your sorrow, and your disappointment. But you deserved to know. You were connected long before the world put cameras on you. You share a bond born not from chance, but from choice, sacrifice, and family. Sandra, the truth is this. Your family once took in a child when no one else would. That child was Keanu's blood. His life was saved because of your parents' kindness, but I was told to keep it silent so you both could live without the weight of what was lost. Keanu, you lost a piece of your family, but what you never knew was that it was Sandra's family who protected that piece. You both walked through life side by side without knowing the roots beneath your feet were tied together. Keanu's hands shook slightly as he lowered the letter. His eyes softened, carrying sorrow and awe. Sandra covered her mouth, her tears falling silently. "This means," she whispered, her voice breaking, "all these years my family was tied to your story, your pain, your loss. It lived in my home without me knowing it." Keanu spoke quietly, almost to himself. "My life has always been full of loss, but I never knew that kindness was there too, hidden, living through your family." Anna, sitting across from them, pressed a hand over her chest. "Daniel wanted you to see this, because he believed kindness is never wasted. He said one act of kindness can tie lives forever." Maybe he was right. Sandra's tears flowed, but her voice grew stronger. "All these years, I thought we were only friends, only partners in films, only bound by shared laughter, but it was more. It was always more." Keanu reached across the table, taking her hand gently. "We were family without knowing it. Maybe that's why we always trusted each other, why our connection never needed words." For a long moment, none of them spoke. The silence was not heavy this time. It was sacred. Finally, Keanu folded the letter again, placing it back inside the envelope. "Daniel carried this truth because he thought it would protect us. Maybe he was right. Maybe he was wrong. But now we carry it, and we must decide what to do with it." Sandra nodded, her strength returning through her tears. "We honor it. Not with anger, not with bitterness. We honor it with kindness, because that's what saved us in the first place." Keanu's eyes glistened, though his voice remained calm. "Yes, kindness." Anna looked at them both, her tears shining. "This was why I gave you the gift. Not to hurt you, but to bring you to this. To remind you that kindness never disappears. It only hides, waiting for the right moment to be seen." The storm of secrets had broken, but in its place, something unexpected had grown. Not pain, not betrayal, but a deeper bond than they had ever imagined. Carrying the light forward, the days that followed were quiet but full of reflection. Keanu and Sandra spent hours together, reading through more of Daniel's journals, walking through old memories, and speaking words they had never shared before. The revelation had shaken them, but it had also bound them closer. What once was only friendship now carried the depth of family, history, and destiny. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with shades of orange, Keanu sat in Sandra's backyard. The letter from Daniel rested in his lap. Sandra joined him, holding 2 cups of tea. They sat in silence, the way they always had been able to, comfortably, without the need for words. Finally, Sandra spoke. "You know, when I first read that letter, I felt betrayed. I felt like something was stolen from me, like I had lived my life blind. But now, I see it differently." Keanu turned to her, his calm eyes waiting. "I see it as proof," Sandra continued. "Proof that kindness doesn't end when people leave. It travels, it hides, and then it comes back when you need it most. My parents' kindness touched your life without me even knowing. And your kindness, Keanu, it has touched mine for years." Keanu's lips curved into a soft smile. We are both here because of it. Kindness is the only thing that survives. Everything. Anna joined them a little later. She carried with her the wooden box that had started it all. She placed it on the table, her eyes full of emotion. This box was not meant to break you, she said. It was meant to remind you of who you are and what you carry. Daniel believed you both would understand when the time was right. Keanu touched the box gently, his voice steady. He was right. I didn't understand at first, but now I do. Life is not about holding on to anger. It's about carrying light, even when it comes from pain. Sandra nodded, her tears soft but not heavy this time. Then let's carry it together, not as something hidden in journals, not as something sealed in letters, but as a living truth. We honor Daniel, and we honor the kindness that saved us. Anna's voice shook, but it carried strength. And we share it, because the world needs to hear it. Not the details, not the secrets, but the message. Kindness never disappears. It always finds a way back. The three of them sat there, the evening growing darker, but the light in their hearts brighter than ever before. Keanu closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the quiet wind. His life had been marked by loss, but here, in this moment, he felt something stronger than loss. He felt resilience, respect, and the warmth of connection that no distance or silence could erase. Sandra reached for his hand, holding it firmly. We cannot change the past, she said softly, but we can choose what we do with the truth now. We can choose to be better, to give the same kindness that once saved us. Keanu's voice was gentle, almost a whisper. And that will be our gift to the world. Anna smiled through her tears. Yes, the greatest gift. The stars began to appear in the sky above them, silent witnesses to their promise. The pain of the past had not vanished, but it had transformed into something powerful, something that would guide them forward. Their story was not about secrets anymore. It was about love that spoke through kindness, resilience that grew through loss, and respect that lasted beyond silence. And as the night wrapped around them, Keanu, Sandra, and Anna carried that truth quietly, ready to face the world with new strength.